Hello, welcome back to HowtoDandD. Today it's all about the Yeti. It's monster lore, that's right. I always do this every single week, and I selected the Yeti for today. And this week is all about the hairy white one. So, for those of you who can see, there is a battle mat and grid here. I'm going to be coming back to this, but for now, let's go to my face and make sure that everything is working as it should. I'm hoping that it will work. Should be all working in 4K, which is also the other aspect that I've been making sure to try and work on. I'm going to put up a poll as well, that it gives you an opportunity to interact, give me an idea of where you're at, where your head's at, okay, things like that. So far we seem to be doing all right. And yes, I'm going to apologize. I am still lurgying it. It's still struggling for me a little bit, but yeah, we'll see how we go. Okay, so sound is working fine. The screen is working fine. So get some food, some drink, settle down, get comfortable. I have a lot to tell you, and this is not the same YouTube Yeti video you have seen other people do. I can assure you, it's got a little bit of a twist. But anyway, you're not here for me to talk about, it's a little bit of a twist, you're here for me to talk about the Yeti. So let's get into the actual creature itself. For the life of me, I am unsure where I am supposed to be positioning myself. Clearly I have no idea. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We'll get into this. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Weller, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. It's getting close to Christmas. Snowmans are nice, but that's actually not the snowman I want to talk about. I want to talk about the Yeti. Now, the Yeti is one of those creatures that Dungeons and Dragons has appropriated. Let's get real. This is not the monster or the creature that has been created by somebody because they were like fantastically gifted or anything like that. It's like many monsters, they are appropriated from a different location. So what I thought I would do is I would go over as much of the Yeti as possible to give you the best idea of whether the Yeti is the sort of creature you want to use in your game or not. So this is the Yeti Dungeons and Dragons monster lore. Sometimes confused with the abominable snowman, or can I even say that word? Abominable snowman. The Yeti is a distant cousin to the great carnivorous apes of warmer climates. An adult Yeti stands about 8 feet tall and is covered in long white fur. Well, is it? We'll get to that. The Yeti's feet and hands are wide and flat, which helps them disperse their weight, which is anywhere from about 300 to 400 pounds on treacherous snow fields. Otherwise, it would just slide around. A Yeti can travel on all fours like an ape, but can actually fight very comfortably standing erect. Unlike most apes and gorillas, the Yeti does not have an opposing toe on its feet. And the Yeti doesn't wear clothing or ornamentation. The smell of a Yeti is very subtle in a cold climate, but in the confines of a warm area, then you get a very strong smell. It's a very strong, musky odor. The eyes of the Yeti are icy blue and almost colorless in some cases. A Yeti's claws and flesh is ivory white. And you might have noticed that I haven't said that the Yeti's hair is ivory white, because there's something else to say about that. Now, when it comes to the biology of the Yeti, frankly, there is a little bit, but not a huge amount. Unlike many Arctic creatures, the Yeti does not have a thick layer of body fat to keep them warm. Instead, the Yeti relies on the special properties of its thick, warm fur that consists of a layer of dense underfur and an outer layer of guard hairs. This is very similar to what a polar bear would have. The Yeti's shaggy guard hairs appear white, but are actually transparent due to two mutated genes that actually influence the myelin production within the body of that hair. The Yeti's fur actually absorbs heat and making it extremely cold if you actually touch it. It actually absorbs the heat. So don't touch the Yeti. You will actually wind up having the heat transferred into it. The heat absorbing property of a Yeti's fur can work against it also, and it can suffer quite significant injuries from heat, anywhere from 50% or greater compared to a normal creature. So one of the aspects of this is it means that a Yeti tends to fear things that create heat, but also fears fire. Yeti have a transparent second eyelid, which allows the Yeti to see in blowing snow or blizzards or storms, and it prevents the eyes from freezing shut completely in extreme temperatures, that's where it lives, is in extreme temperatures. The Yeti has an extremely well-developed sense of smell, because the brain is dominated by a large olfactory cortex. Like a lot of animals, they often have a bigger part of the brain designated to smell. It has many more smell sensitive receptors as well compared to another creature, and it also has mobile nostrils to help determine the direction of a scent, much like a dog, where a dog can actually change the direction of its nostril to figure out exactly where that smell is coming from. Yeti dark vision is a result of the pupils of the eye being much larger than a human's, because the pupils are quite large. This allows more light in to hit the back of the retina, and as a result of that, they're much more likely to be able to see in the darkness. They also have more rod cells in the fovea of the eye compared to cone cells, which pick up color. Rod cells pick up differences between light, and cones help differentiate that light. And they have a lot less of that. So that means that when it registers light on the retina, it's picking up mostly light rather than differentiating and getting color. That doesn't mean that it looks or sees like a dog, but it's kind of similar. The Yeti stomach can actually process meat and vegetable matter, but because flora doesn't usually survive at high altitudes, the Yeti's diet is mostly meat, animals that can actually survive at high altitude. As a result, sages have assumed the Yeti is in fact carnivorous, or a carnivore, but it's not. It just happens to have, that's all it's around to actually eat in its environment quite often. As a result of eating meat, this releases a hormone within the body of a Yeti, making it far more aggressive. So if a Yeti were to have a diet that was mostly vegetables and fruit, then it would become less aggressive. But as a result of the meat, much like humans, they become more aggressive. And this tends to be the case with most carnivores anyway. Low oxygen environments at high altitude are something that the Yeti thrives in, and this is because the aerobic muscles have a higher number of mitochondria, and they also have far more blood vessels within the body to actually pump blood through. And their blood is actually very special because it's much more effective at extracting oxygen than other blood is. So everything is built to be able to function at a high altitude with as little oxygen as possible. So the only way to actually survive is to ensure that the creature has a good system for keeping itself warm internally and also processing oxygen. So you have to bring in more oxygen into the body, otherwise perish. Now, combat with the Yeti. What does that look like? The Yeti it's basically a very fierce hunter of the polar regions. All Yetis stalk at their prey and lay ambushes, attempting to gain some sort of surprise on them if they can. Our favourite trick is to go ahead of their prey. So the Yeti moves ahead of their prey, and then they will lie in a depression in the ground or in the snow, and sometimes they will even dig a shallow pit and then cover themselves with snow so that they can't be seen. Such Yeti excavations or holes can be detected only by natives of the Arctic regions usually, and even if you are a native of an Arctic region, then there's only probably like a 25% chance that you'll actually notice them in their hiding spot. Against the snow, the Yeti is almost completely invisible due to its colorization, until the prey usually get somewhere between 10 yards away. Under a thick layer of snow, a Yeti is completely invisible. Like, you would not be able to detect them at all. So if you thought you had good eyes, you probably won't spot them. You may be able to smell them though. Any opponent surprised by a Yeti might be paralyzed or go rigid with fright for about a half a minute. And this indicates that they have actually looked into those icy blue depths of the Yeti's eyes. Because an opponent that looks into the eyes of a Yeti will become paralyzed. And then they're completely at the mercy of the Yeti. And of course, then they will then bring in their claws and tear them to pieces or crush them to death. Although tearing them to pieces first is probably going to be their first choice. Although the Yeti does actually have fangs, it doesn't usually attack with the fangs. Instead, it prefers to use its formidable claws. A Yeti's claws can be used to grapple a victim and then pull them into their chilling gaze. Or even to just chill them, because remember, contact with the Yeti, they absorb heat, and so therefore they could wind up crushing you and freezing you like an ice block. The habitat of the Yeti. Although the Yeti is of average intelligence, it actually has no civilization that we know of. The Yeti can use simple tools, including man-made tools, but it will not make tools of its own. It doesn't do that sort of thing. Yeti live in ice caves and hills and mountains. Sometimes these ice caves are natural, and sometimes they have been excavated by the Yeti or enlarged to accommodate a family, should they need to do so. Most Yeti treasure consists of items recovered from the bodies of explorers or adventurers. Life is harsh in the Arctic, so friends, food are hard to find, and it really does mean that making survival and reproduction are really the Yeti's ultimate goal. That's really all it's really focused on, rather than other things. The Yeti are extremely reclusive, and they also possess an eerie howl that strikes fear into those that hear it. The Yeti will associate only with its immediate family usually, which means that that will consist of a mature adult with the young, and then of course the young will then fend for themselves once they reach maturity. A Yeti family usually consists, as I said, of an adult male with 1 to 3 females, and there's a 50% chance that they'll have between 1 and 6 female young with a female present. So if there is a female involved, there's probably going to be anywhere between 1 to half a dozen younglings. In a hunting pack, the largest Yeti is usually the male, and the next largest ones are usually its mates. Any other Yeti in a hunting pack is usually quite a bit smaller, and they will be the younger male or females that have been the offspring of the couple, but they do leave the family relatively soon. So it's not like a Yeti family stays together indefinitely. The ecology of the Yeti. Any living creature not of the Yeti's family is usually considered potential food, including other Yeti. This does make them kind of well, they're not foolhardy. Okay, and they're not going to attack you unless they're absolutely starving. So if a Yeti were to attack you, it's probably, particularly if you've got a large party, they're only going to do that if they've got no other choice to do so. The Yeti's typical diet consists of herd creatures such as caribou, bears, wolves, and other creatures that inhabit the snowy mountains in which they live, and also any other creatures that are living at high altitude. So there are many birds that could potentially be caught as well. The Yeti may turn to scavenging in hard times. As I said, their stomach can process meat and vegetable matter. The resilient Yeti range across a wide area in search of food, usually anywhere from 15 miles in all directions from its lair. And they do lair, they do have a cave or a home. Yeti claws and teeth have a value because of their rarity. You know, the rarity of the creature is the biggest factor. The ivory of the Yeti sells for about 1 gold piece for a tooth or a claw on the open market. And then it's a different story with the Yeti fur because this is prized by those who certainly live in a cold environmental climate. It's got an extraordinary ability, even with it not attached to the Yeti anymore. The hide and the hair actually keeps you incredibly warm, so it retains some of its properties even in death. A fully grown Yeti pelt would fetch somewhere in the vicinity of 300 gold pieces on the open market if you were to go and purchase one. Now, how would you go about incorporating the Yeti into your adventure? You could have a Yeti family who are searching for the young stumble upon the characters, or you could have a player character rescue the Yeti's young from, say, a predator and then return them to their family. You could also potentially have Yeti causing avalanches by burrowing into the snow or the ice shelves and then causing an avalanche to bury settlements that are close by to wherever they lair or are residing. I'm going to suggest, what about something like a Yeti Winter Olympics, where you have different events that they take part in? Now, I know this is kind of going outside of the normal lore for the Yeti, but stay with me. I'm suggesting ice skating on a frozen lake, or what about skiing? Like skiing down a mountain would be fun. I think the one that I like the most is the idea, and I've been putting this forward for a long time, snowboarding Yetis is one of my favourite things to do in games. And then, of course, you've got the bobsled, or just the plain old sled. I'm sure you know what I mean. You know what winter sports are. I'm sure you can figure out how to incorporate winter sports in the Yeti. You could also have the Yeti hunting the characters like a horror story, a bit like Deliverance. So they don't never see the monster. They just see the remnants, and things just keep disappearing. And they might hear the howl of the Yeti, and then of course it's tracking them down. So it's more like rather than we go and search them out, it's hunting them. You could have an Arctic Yeti bartender that actually works, say, in an environment that is like a town and a cold environment, and in town there's like a bar, an open bar, where the Yeti serves cold drinks because they can use their gaze or breath to actually cool the drinks. An idea that AJ Pickett had put forward to us as part of the Dungeon Master Roundtable, and I do need to thank a lot of people from the Dungeon Master Roundtable because a lot of their ideas are here. And that is, what about Yeti that are desert folk, that wrap themselves in rags, who have partially acclimatized themselves to the desert's heat, but actually the desert gets very cold at night, and maybe that's when they actually move around. They have dark vision, so maybe they sleep during the day in some sort of cave location and then venture out at night in the desert to hunt. You could also have a town water supply that dries up. And why has the town water supply dried up? Well, because every town water supply does seem to dry up and go wrong or get poisoned. But no, it dries up because the Yetis have actually frozen the water flow or river or stream that feeds into the town. And that flow of water is coming from the mountains. So they actually freeze it up at its source. And so the water supply disappears because the Yeti have decided, no, we're not providing you with water anymore. We want you to go away, so we'll freeze it solid. You could have a merchandise line of Yeti cups that actually magically keep your drinks cold if you wanted to. Or you could have Yeti stealing dried meats from a local butcher shop. Or just stealing meat full stop. Why is all the meat disappearing? Well, it's because the Yeti comes down from the mountains and poaches what they want. So a few different ideas that you might be able to use in your game. Now, how do you defeat a Yeti? It's a good question. Don't look into the eyes of the Yeti because of that chilling gaze. And fighting from a distance with ranged weapons and spells is probably a good idea. Avoid fighting in close quarters with the Yeti because of its sharp claws. And also its gaze. That's always a big factor because its gaze only has a certain distance. Remain alert for danger would certainly help. Avoid being ambushed by the Yeti. And then getting a blessing would certainly help ward off the magical effect of the Yeti's gaze, because that chilling gaze is magical rather than got any kind of biological um, chemical effect going on. Okay, so it's definitely a magical effect. Waving a flaming torch at a Yeti or creating magical fire or just creating fire would likely frighten off the Yeti because they are afraid of fire. And then mind affecting spells might likely be more successful over magic that targets its impressive physical structure and physique. So go for the mind, not the body. Now, where did the Yeti come from? In terms of publication, where do we find the Yeti? Well, originally the Yeti was a Himalayan mountain folk story that the Sherpa have been putting forth for quite a long time. That was appropriated by TSR, who created Dungeons and Dragons in the first place. They then put it into the Monster Manual for First Ed Edition in 1977, and then it was released again in the Monstrous Manual for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, Second Ed Edition in 1993, I believe. You also find it in the Oriental Adventures book for Third Ed Edition in 2001, and then it comes up again in Frostburn 3.5 D&D in 2004. And then we follow up with the Dungeon Master Manual, or should I say not the Dungeon Master Manual, the Monster Manual for Third Ed Edition, for Monster Manual 3 for Fourth Ed Edition. So there were actually 3 Monster Manuals during Fourth Ed Edition, and the third one they put out in 2010 had the Yeti in it. And then, of course, we have the Monster Manual for 5th Ed Edition in 2014. And there were other publications where the Yeti did show up as well, but I thought those were the most noteworthy, the ones that I really need to mention out of all the ones that are certainly available. Look, the Yeti is a fun monster. I have always enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun monster from the get-go. I've used it quite a lot in my games. I hope that you use it in your games as well. So please let me know in the comments section what your experience with the Yeti has been, any questions you might have, and hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Okay, I'm not gone. Just bear with me while I do some stuff. No, that's not going to work. Okay. Okay, all right, so we're going to go to chat. Then I'm going to come back to here, and I will do some demonstration and explanation. And then we will see if we need to rebuild the Yeti for Dungeons & Dragons 5e. We've been doing a lot of remastering recently, so I thought it would be good to be able to do that again. Now, why can't I find... Ah, there we are. All right, we're going to get rid of Mr. Yeti for now. Yep. And transition over. Thank you for your time. I do appreciate it. Okay, so going into chat. We're a quiet day today. For those of you who are here, and I'm going to comment very quickly, and then we're going to go back to, I guess, what I want to say. So first, the poll here. What experience do you have with the Yeti in Dungeons and Dragons? You've run the dungeon. The Yeti as a dungeon master. That would be 40%. None, 60%. So the Yeti is actually not something that a lot of people have used, which would probably explain why there's so few people here, because it's obviously not high on their radar. Hello, Fendar. Fendar is a patron and also a moderator. Thank you for coming today. You managed to catch today's stream? Well, that's great. So Fendar, I know you've been putting in the timestamps. Don't put the timestamps into the live stream. I will release this as an edited version at a later date. You will see the Umber Hulk coming forward very shortly. Just give me a bit of time. How's it going, Nacho Man? Also a patron. How are you doing? Hopefully not too much like Deliverance. Well, I mean, I feel like there's a place for Deliverance, don't you? I feel like there is a place for Deliverance. No squealing pigs, please. Okay, fair enough. Hello, Spirit Wolf. How are you? I now have a vision of someone playing the banjo scene on a lute. Well, no, just get rid of the lute and just have a banjo. You can have a banjo in a Dungeons and Dragons game. Yeti with a banjo. Oh, well, I had not considered a Yeti that plays an electric guitar. Okay, All right, you sold me. I'm going into my notes now. Let me see. I'm going to write this. Yeti. Slide myself back a little bit. A Yeti that plays the electric guitar in a rock band. Okay. And that has been added to my list of different things that you could do with the Yeti. Thank you, Spirit Wolf. That will wind up in the Patreon document that I release at the end of the week. Snowboarding? Yeah. Punk out that Yeti here. Feels very... Okay, so for those of you who are here, Nacho Man, and anybody else, I know there's not a lot of people here. I need to say, I need to apologize a little bit for yesterday's live stream. Yesterday's live stream was Dungeon Master preparation. It was supposed to be creating locations, and the location we were supposed to create was the Beholder Lair. And it didn't work well. One, because I had thought I was going to use Dungeon Scroll, and that I was just going to do the basic layouts for each of the 3 different levels. And I didn't do that, unfortunately. Instead, I got sidetracked. I got stuck on the software because the software had been updated, and I should have just gone straight to pen, pencil, and a pen. I should have used paper and pencil and pen. So in the future, if I ever do any mapping, since I'm not that conversant with software, okay, I am always going to be doing my maps on paper with pencil and a big black marker pen, so that you guys can see it once I've drawn out my rough pencil lines. So I know there are a lot of people who do map software stuff better than I do. I'm just not conversant enough with that sort of stuff. I don't have time to use a lot of that stuff. It was so time consuming, and I got wrapped up in using all the fiddly little decorative bits and pieces, which meant I wound up ignoring the live stream chat. And I was quite upset that I had done that I had insisted on trying to use that software when I should have used paper, that the experience for me didn't feel that great, and I didn't feel like it was very great for anybody else who had to rewatch it, or for anybody who was there. So in the future, if I do maps, it's on paper with pencil and a pen. That's it, okay? I'm going to leave my brother and experts who know how to use software and arty stuff with... they can do all the drawing with that sort of stuff. I'm going to leave that alone, okay? Yeah, sometimes the old way is the best way, Spirit Wolf, and I feel like that would have been the smartest way to go. I would have got it done so much faster. It would have been done in a breakneck speed. I wouldn't have been hard at all, and I didn't do that, and I should have. Okay, so I'm really sorry about that. If you guys want me to redo the Beholder Lair in the future, I'm not going to do it anytime soon. But if people want me to go back to it and I will do paper and pencil, then I will. But at this point, I'm just going to try to put it behind me as a learning exercise. In any case, let me just start up my phone, and we are going to jump over to my battle mat, and we're going to do a little bit of demonstration. And we also have some homework to do, so that means we actually have to contend with the likes of, doing a remastering. I think a remastering might be necessary. I think that the Yeti might need a bit of a tickle just to get it going. Okay, so I'm putting aside enough time to do that. If I get to the top of the hour, please let me know that I need to take a break, because you know what it is. I tend to avoid doing that when I should not do that. I should be taking breaks. And yeah. Anyway, let's see if I can actually find this thing. Is it working? Okay. Okay, so also those of you who are expecting the Beholder Lair map on Patreon, I hopefully will finish it, but I'm taking out all of the assets. It's just going to be about basic structure, okay? And I'll give you the Dungeon Scroll files, and you can go and take those Dungeon Scroll files and add whatever you feel like adding to it. So the best way to support me is always on Patreon. That's where you get everything. Do you know what I mean? Okay. Right, let's go over to here. And that should be working fine. I will go back to this in a second. Drink some water, prep myself. I will release the Yeti within me. Is the Yeti related to the Bigfoot? I think a lot of people assume that it is. I mean, it's up to you, really. Ultimately, in the end, it's totally up to you. So, here's our situation. Now, the Yeti would usually be hiding below the snow, and as soon as something gets within range, and it's got good sense of smell, and its hearing's not terrible, but it's the sense of smell that's going to be the thing that's probably going to work to its advantage when they are coming into its range. So with your Yeti, my suggestion to you is assume that a perception check is probably not going to be very effective. Now remember, a sense of smell, the Yeti won't actually smell that bad in a cold environment. It's actually very hard to smell something in a cold environment unless your body is designed to do so. Now, the Yeti's body is designed to deal with the cold. Okay, so it can smell stuff in a cold environment. What you'll find is your player characters, all of their races, their sense of smell is pretty much shut down because of the cold. So that means they can't see it. They won't be able to hear it because it's not moving. It's under the snow. Okay, and they can't smell it. And they won't be able to feel it because it's going to stay still. Okay, it knows how to hunt. It knows how to surprise its enemy. So it's going to probably pop up as soon as they get too close. And I would say very, very close, like they're almost on top of it. That's the best time for it to spring up. So forget about rolling dice or using passive perception with something like the Yeti. And primarily that is because of one of its features, okay? If you have a look at the Yeti and how it works, it has a thing called snow camouflage. And I want to read out the snow camouflage section, and this is what I have to say about it. The Yeti has advantage on dexterity stealth checks made to hide in snow and snowy terrain. Now, what it suggests is you roll 2 dice when you're making your stealth check against somebody who's trying to perceive it. But there's nothing to perceive, so I wouldn't even bother there. Okay? It's got keen smell, so its sense of smell is very strong, even in the environment it is in. It doesn't like fire. Okay, so we already talked about that. So let's have a look at how this is usually going to work. You're going to be using the multi-attack. Okay, so what I would suggest to you is whatever you roll up in terms of initiative. I mean, I can roll initiative for this creature if you like. We can actually, we'll roll initiative. We've got a little bit of time before we have to get onto things. So roll some 20-sided dice, people. Get your dice out. I need you to roll at least 5 dice. I'm only going to take a d20 from each person who rolls a dice. So I know there's only a few people here, so if that doesn't work, then just put in another entry. Roll a d20. Okay, roll a d20, people, and we'll do some initiative, show you what it looks like, and give you a better idea of what your Yeti battle is likely to be. Okay, Wizard, Cleric, Rogue, DM. That's that. Okay, and I'm going to do some initiatives. Initiative. I think that's right. Okay. And I'm going to roll for my Yeti. Okay, so I'll roll for the Yeti. That makes it a little bit easier for you guys, so you don't have to worry about having to roll too many dice. But I'll go through this very, very quickly. Don't worry, I'll be fast. Okay, here we go. So first off, Yeti. Yeti has a modifier of +1 for their initiative. That's the dexterity modifier. So I'm doing the Yeti. I'm going to roll my dice for the Yeti. I got a 17. So 17 and 1, that's 18. So that's what we get for our Yeti. Okay, now I'm putting my dice away because I'm not the one rolling. Instead, Cassidy, Nacho, Fender, Spirit Wolf, you are doing that. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Let's get rid of this. First one we'll do is the fighter. Fighter has a -1 on initiative. And we'll take Spirit Wolf's 14. So that comes to a grand total of 13. So the fighter gets a 13. And then we have, I'll do the cleric because it's just easier. It's already got it's got a -1, I believe, the cleric, so I'll do that one next. So Fender, I'll take your 7. And the cleric gets a 6. So cleric gets a 6. I'll go back to the wizard, which has a +2. Don't do that, Fred. +2. So 2 on the wizard. And our next number after Fender was Nacho. Nacho Man, you get a 16, so I'll take that. It comes to 18. Thank you for rolling your D20. That's the wizard, 18. Last one is the rogue. The rogue has a 3 for their modifier. So we'll do that, 3. And Cassidy, I'm taking your 15, okay? So that is an 18 in total. So that's 18. So we're then going to take this and we'll put it into order. Highest number at the top. The DM's got an 18, so put that. I'm putting now in Dungeons and Dragons 5e. There's no rolling off on with dice. It's just the dungeon master wants to go first. They go first. Always put yourself first over the players. There are too many other players who can do a lot of stuff very quickly. So you always want to get your monster in there first. That's how I do it. You don't have to do what I do, okay? And then after that we go fighter, cleric is last. So this is what it's going to look like. First round, the Yeti is going to get to do something. And then after that, they will all take their turn, but they'll all be surprised. I'm going to count this as a situation where you just can't not be surprised. I know that sounds rough, but seriously, I think it's going to work better for you to do it that way. If you find that that's too much, then by all means roll stealth with advantage if you want to. What it does mean is potentially the first thing that you do, you can count as having advantage on. Now, how would you go about doing this? Well, what I'm going to do here is I want to suggest there are 2 ways because you have multi-attack on the Yeti. You could start off and use your chilling gaze, okay, which is fine. That's a constitution saving throw, so you're not really benefiting too much by doing it that way. Or what you can do is you go with your claw attack. So you could get your first claw attack would get advantage. So that's what I'm going to suggest you do. So we're going to do with claws. We're going to roll with advantage. And with our claws, we're going to be doing, it's actually not a lot of damage with the claw. Okay. And our bonus with our claw is a 6. And our bonus for our damage with our slashing claw is a 4. 6 and 6, so 2 dice here. Okay. So, first attack. Attack the rogue or the fighter first. It doesn't really matter. You pop out of the snow with your claw hand and you go for your attack. Roll with advantage because they're not going to see that coming. Okay. Now I know a lot of people say, oh, if you make a melee attack, then you are now seen. Look, if you're making a melee attack as close as this and you're in a hidden location, give them advantage. Your monster gets advantage. Okay. Only on the first one. So I rolled a critical. Fantastic. That means I get to roll more dice. It's double the dice. Not double everything, but double the dice. Okay. Right. So 20 and a 6 equals 26. We'll go after the fighter first because that's kind of fun for me. Hopefully they have a better chance of surviving this. Maybe not. Not if they're level 1. Not that I would suggest that level 1's a great idea for a Yeti. It is only challenge rating apparently 3, but not with a critical. First attack. Rolling all my dice. So I've got a lot of 6s here. Okay, so 4 is the modifier for strength. 6, 6, 6, and a 4. Okay, so how much damage is that in total? That is 10, 20, 26. It's the 26th day. 26 points of damage on the fighter. I have no idea how many hit points this fighter at level 1 would have. It's got 12. Okay, so the fighter has been ripped to pieces. They're dead. falls down the hole into the into the glacier. Okay, that worked out really well. Okay, so that's the first attack. Now after this, you stand up. Now you could also say if you are lying down, you would not get advantage. So that would make sense because when you're prone, the assumption is that you don't get, there's going to be disadvantage involved or something like that. I mean, it's up to you. I mean, frankly, I don't think it really matters, ultimately. I don't usually apply disadvantage to somebody who makes a melee attack on the ground. But in any case, let's forget about that for now. Let's get back up, and we're going to do, now we could do another claw, but we're going to do the claw after we have a look at our rogue or our wizard. So we're going to gaze at them. They only have to be within 30 feet, and they have to make a constitution saving throw. So let us do that now, shall we? The gaze of death, chilling gaze, chilling gaze. So when you're doing this, maybe a good idea to not be level 1. Characters might be better off to be level 2. So Rooksir, how's it going? Rooksir has a Rooksir 0, or Rook 0 has a channel that does monster lore and also draws lots of player characters and monsters. You need to go and check him out. Splotch. So one character dead. Let's deal with our chilling gaze. Our chilling gaze does a reasonable amount of damage. It's actually 3 6-sided dice, and there's going to be a constitution saving throw involved, and we'll go after our little rogue here because why not? They're on the front line. They get to wear it first. Now the constitution saving throw is a +1. I want somebody to roll a 20-sided dice for our rogue and see if they live today. 1 is the modifier for constitution for this rogue here. I'm using the starter set pre-made characters. Okay. So I'm waiting for you guys to roll a 20-sided dice. I mean, I could roll it myself, and if nobody rolls it, then I'll roll it myself, but I'm going to have a drink of water while you decide what you want to do here. Eat the halfling on a half shell. A whole shell, half shell. Something like that. Hey, you tell me. You tell me. Oh, it's a bad day for Amelia. Things are not going well for her. Okay. So, are we going to get a dice roll from people? Are people up? There we go. Cassidy's got in there. There's a 12. Thank you for that. So you rolled a 12. Comes to a 13. So did our rogue manage to survive the chilling gaze? The Yeti targets one creature, which we've done within 30 feet. When you're within 30 feet, you're right in front of him. If the target can see the Yeti, which it can, the target must succeed on a DC 13, which we just did. Okay, saving throw against the magical effect, or take 3D, or 10 damage, which is the average. I use the average usually, or 3 6-sided dice worth of cold damage. And then they are paralyzed for 1 minute, which is the worst bit. Because if they've been paralyzed, we could have done a lot more. Okay. Unless it is immune to cold, which it is not. The target ends the effect on itself, and if the target saves is successful, then it ends. Okay, so basically, there's no effect on a success as far as I can tell. I'm just trying to remember this. This is written very, very small, so my eyes are actually struggling to see everything here. Yep, there's no half damage effect on this thing. So it's now succeeded, it's now immune to the effect, and it takes no damage. So we don't get to roll this, and you don't get to apply any kind of condition. So no paralyzing the creature today. So we'll follow up with our claw and finish whatever we were doing before. We won't have advantage on the rogue, which is fine. So let's have a look. Somebody rolled me some dice for that. A natural 1. Nacho man. For a natural 1, well, no point me writing down claw. A natural 1's going to miss. So the claw attack comes into place. Claw misses. Okay. Natural 1 on a 20-sided dice, always a miss. Okay. So now, I've finished as a dungeon master. I could move and position myself closer to make it harder for the rest to escape. I could go here. Or I could be a real dick, okay, and I could go all around the way here and position myself so that I now have access to not only the rogue but also the cleric at the back. So I have two choices. Do I want the wizard and the rogue, or do I want the cleric and the rogue? So you will decide. Okay, I'm going to go with this one. I feel like I love wizards, but I have no problems with killing them first, because they should be killed first before they can cast Fireball. Okay, that's that. I've taken my turn. I went first. This is kind of the scenario you might potentially have. I was very lucky. I did get a critical. You probably won't get a critical. Then we go down to fighter, wizard. It is surprised, doesn't get to act. Rogue, surprise, doesn't get to act. Fighter, surprise, doesn't get to act. Cleric, surprise, doesn't get to act. We're on now to round 2. Back, we start with the Dungeon Master again. I would say, on average, you'll find with a situation with the Yeti that ultimately, in the first round, you should have at least one character either going down if they're level 1 or 2, or badly injured. Probably not killed outright. That's just very unfortunate. And then after that, really, anything can happen. I mean, I can follow up with another attack. Remember, we get to use our Chilling Gaze again and our claws. So this time it would make sense to do the Chilling Gaze first. So we'll try the Chilling Gaze again. Somebody has already rolled me a dice for our Chilling Gaze. I believe somebody had rolled a 2. I feel like I'm going to ask for a new roll. So Rook 0, I'm going to ignore that dice roll. So somebody can please roll for the wizard. I'm now going to use my Chilling Gaze with multi-attack on the wizard. And we'll see if the wizard winds up in trouble. Yeah, well, you've got to be the right level for that, don't you? Okay, so Chilling Gaze first. What I want to do is paralyze somebody. If I can paralyze somebody, then I'm going to follow up with my claws. The idea being is that when you use your multi-attack with a Yeti, it's paralyze them with your Chilling Gaze, do a bit of damage, follow up with the claws, and then eat them. Okay? 18. Thank you, Spirit Wolf. I do appreciate that. Okay, so we've got an 18. That's a 19. Okay, so that's definitely not going to work because the DC for the Constitution saving throw is a 13. So now both these characters are immune to the gaze, and we'll just follow up with claws. So I need 2 dice rolls for the claws. You're right. You rolled a 0, did you? Okay. All right. Claw. We've got 2 claws to make, and that is a 6. And we're adding a 4, and we roll 2 6-sided dice for our damage. Okay. So you rolled a 1. Okay, so first claw will miss if you roll a 1. That comes to 7. It's not going to be enough to hit the armor class of either the wizard or the rogue, so we don't worry about that. We'll go after the rogue because I just feel like I want to pick on the small person, and I mean that's what they would do. They would go after the small, weakest looking individual, and then the rogue kind of looks weak. They've only got an armor class of 14. Next one, you got an 8. So I only got a 12. So that missed. The first claw missed, and the second claw will miss as well. Okay, so Chilling Gaze didn't work. First claw, second claw doesn't work. Finished. And now we move into the players' turns. I would imagine you would probably find that you would at least have another character fairly seriously injured. But that is if you're running at level 1 with these characters. If you're level 2, you'll probably find it's not nearly as bad. I would never put multiple Yeti against low-level characters. Very bad idea. Okay? All right. So that's me covering that. Let us move on to our next task, which is let's do some rebuilding. Let's see if this thing is actually built the way it's supposed to be built, because it may or may not be. Anyway, if you have any questions or are unsure about the strategy, you let me know. I think I made it pretty clear. If you are hidden, use a claw because you get advantage. Then follow up with your gaze and then the other claw, which you can do. Or start with the Chilling Gaze, try to paralyze somebody, and then follow up with your claws so you get a better chance of actually hitting them. That's the whole point. And then once you've got somebody who's down, then you grab them, run away, and eat them later on. Back to the cave, okay? There are younglings to feed. All right, that's that. Okay, so let's see if I can find the appropriate screen. I got my chat up. I've got this up. Put that over there. Okay, that seems to be working. We'll transition over. And window, capture. Okay, all right, cool. So our first task is I have to move a few things out of the way, which you can't actually see right now, but just bear with me while I shuffle my bits and pieces into a better position so that I can actually do this. And I'll grab my Dungeon Master Guide and we'll go through the stat block for the Yeti and see if it needs some adjustment. And if there does need to be an adjustment, I will make adjustments. We'll fix it up. You can give me some feedback on it. If you feel like I'm doing something wrong with it, you let me know. I feel like it has all of the abilities that it needs to have, frankly. I don't think, is there anything else that needed to be added there? I think it's just going to be coming down to the mathematics. Has the mathematics been done correctly? Or is it one of those freaky monsters where they've gone off their own scale and done something wacky? So let's have a look. Dungeon Master Guide. And over to my screen. All right, I see a Spirit Wolf. So I see an art show. I'll see you later. I know you got work. Go do your work. That's important. I'll have to go to work shortly myself. But right now, I can do this. So we will. Okay. We've got this all in the right place. Okay, so this is our first task. Creations, creating a monster. So we'll go create a monster. I'll just do that right now, so I don't have to go back and then check it. If it needs to be checked, it needs to be checked. We'll see. We'll do it this way. Yeti. There we go. Now I know some people are saying, what about the other Yeti? If we have time, we'll have a look at the stronger Yeti that's available. Okay. Right now, we're just going to go with create it based off this. See if it works. There's a copy. I will save this. What's that? Setting up stupid Black Friday sale. Oh my God, I hate Black Friday. Top of the hour. It is top of the hour. Okay, good point. It is top of the hour. Let me go to collections. It's almost top of the hour. 3 minutes to go. Well, I'll do it right on the top of the hour. Okay. Copy of Yeti. That's what I want. And we'll go to edit in a second. Let's have a look at the maths behind this first. So it's a challenge rating 3, which means if we look at in the Dungeon Master Guide, this is where I'm getting my numbers from. This is where I normally check my maths for a monster. Okay. Page 274 of the Dungeon Master Guide. There is a table that says creating quick monster stat blocks. If your monster works within those parameters, then I feel like at least you have a standard benchmark for how they are constructed. It's not going to solve everything because there is an element to certain monster abilities are just obviously stronger and they don't factor in to the calculation. And you can't build a monster on maths alone. But it's always interesting to see if Wizards of the Coast has gone off the rails with some of their monster creation, because it seems very obvious that some monsters are significantly stronger and yet they are the same challenge rating. So first thing to notice, challenge rating 3 lists we should have a proficiency bonus of +2, which we do have. Good, well that's fine. It says we should have an armor class of about 13 and yet we have 12. Why is it 12? Well, it's obviously not because of the dexterity modifier, because it's not going 10 plus 1 and giving it a dexterity of 11. So that number, that natural armor they've included, is an arbitrary number, frankly, as far as I'm concerned. So there's our first point of call, I would say, is maybe we need to bump the armor class a little bit. Let me just where's my little bit of paper? Armor class. I'm going to make a note of that as a change to consider. You tell me if you think I'm right or wrong, but I think that's actually probably a smart way to go, is just bump its armor class by 1 up to 13. So challenge rating. Now the hit points, let's have a look and see if the hit points are sort of fitting within the parameters. It says here for challenge rating 3 it should be about 101 to 115. Now, one of the things you've got to take into consideration is there's challenge rating for offensive and defensive. One of the things that I have found, though, that is if your offensive and defensive challenge rating is too different from each other, there's too much variation, the monster is wacky. It just doesn't work. And so you've got to be careful not to get too silly about this sort of thing. So 51 hit points is the average. That's not the number we need to concern ourselves with. It says here 6d10. So if we take the maximum you can get off 6d10, which is 60, add 18, which is the number beside that by hit points. So that's 60 plus 18, that's 78. So 78 hit points is way too little. That's just not enough. If you think about just how few hit points that is, that's seriously underwhelming for a creature like this. So first off, I would say hit points need to go up by quite a bit. How many hit points we go up by? That's another question. Hit points need to go up. And our range, we want to fall within about 101 to 115. Otherwise, this creature's dead way too quickly. Okay. Now, bearing in mind, if you are dealing with new players and they've never played Dungeons & Dragons, I wouldn't bother doing any of this. But if you're dealing with people who know how to play the game, yeah, I would make adjustments. 3, so challenge rating 3, it says here the attack bonus should at least be a +4, and we've got a +6. +6 is quite high. Why is it so high? It's because of the strength, isn't it? The strength is what's making the big change. Because its strength is so strong, it's got a +4, and then the proficiency bonus, which is a +2. That's why we wind up with a 6. Okay, so that's a 6. Okay, so is the attack bonus too high? Attack bonus needs to go down, maybe down to a 4. That would probably be a little bit more reasonable rather than making it quite so strong. But again, at level 3, most player characters are going to have at least a +5. I'm fine with it having a +5. Does that mean we power down its strength? That's a good question. Let's have a look at the next thing on here. It says here the damage output for this creature should be about 21 to 26 hit points. The DC is actually fine. That Constitution DC of 13, it should be a 13 for a creature of a challenge rating 3. So that's actually fine. So the chill gaze is actually pretty much spot on. So let's have a look at how much damage we do. If our chill gaze actually works, we would do 10 points of damage. There's no guarantee it will. We're doing 2 claw attacks. That's 7 points for the claw, and then another 3, so that's another 10. So if we hit with everything and everything works and we get our average at least, then we're looking at about 30 points of damage. So this thing actually does probably a little bit more damage than it needs to. So damage might need to actually come down a little bit. And what is our damage output looking like? It's 21 to 26. How would we do that though? Is there an easy way to actually tone down our damage output? I'm going to suggest probably the easiest way to tone down the damage output is not on the claws, because that's actually too complicated. It would probably be easier to tone it down on the chilling gaze and make the chilling gaze less powerful in terms of damage output, but it still has that effect, which is the paralyzing effect. That would probably be a way of sort of toning down the damage output on this thing. And as you can see, given that it took out a first level character. Granted, that was a critical, but if it wasn't a critical, the fighter would be either teetering on the edge of falling over, or would be unconscious potentially. So I think there's room for sort of not playing with that. Okay, so let's go and actually do some maths on this little sucker. So we're going to 5e tools. And that's the CR rating or challenge rating calculator. Let's see if this thing actually comes out the way it's supposed to. So we'll reset it. Challenge rating should be coming through here. No, I don't need to know about this. Thank you very much. So the challenge rating should be a 3. Defensive abilities, hit points. Well, we're really looking here at hit points that are pretty low, weren't they? They were somewhere in the 51 hit points. 51. Now, obviously, the top end, I mean, it can range up to higher. So 51 is our hit points. Armor class, they've actually got an armor class which is only a 12. So we'll pump that down a little bit. Go here. What size is the Yeti? It is a large creature, so it's large. Where is that size? Large. Hit dice. How many hit dice does this thing have? I think it had very few, didn't it? It's only got 6 hit dice. That's probably not enough. 6 hit dice. Okay. So it's actually telling me that the hit points would be even lower. And then its constitution, which will be quite a lot higher. It's a 16. So our constitution goes up to 16. Okay, so that actually changed the number in terms of the hit points. That works out. That looks good. Damage per round, we worked out to be about 30. That's if it all hits. There's no guarantee we'll actually get 30. We've got attack bonuses. The attack bonus is actually a 6. But we also use saves. And the save is actually a 13. Okay. Is it vulnerable to anything? I believe it is vulnerable to something. Now, what was it? Immunities is cold. Fire. It's not a vulnerability, but it certainly it does seem like it is a kind of vulnerability, doesn't it? It doesn't stipulate it. If it takes fire damage, it has disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks until the end of its next turn. So we don't factor that in. So we're going to leave that alone. Does it have an immunity? It does have an immunity. And that will probably what's kicking it up quite high. Flies doesn't do that. Okay, saving throws. How many saving throws does it have? Does it have any? No, it doesn't have any saving throws whatsoever. So that's all figured out. Let's go and have a look at this ability here. I think either AC or hit points need to go up, but not both. I think it's balanced otherwise. So we're going to find out in a second. I think ultimately hit points probably are a little bit on the low side for a creature of this nature, but we'll see. We'll figure it out. Ambusher. It's not an ambusher as such, but it does have this funny ability. The creature has advantage on attack rolls against any creature it has quick and surprise. I actually feel like we need to actually press the ambusher ability because camouflage kind of works that way. So I'm going to press this button here. Okay. You can tell me if you disagree, but I think we're going to count the camouflage ability. Essentially means we're probably going to be surprising our characters with that. And then damage transfer, enlarge, no. Frightening presence, no. Heated body, touching or hitting the creature while within 5 feet of it causes damage. So it's not heated body, it's like a cold body, isn't it? But it does cause damage. So if you see here, where is it? Do we have that actually built into the Yeti? That's only in the lore and not in the actual stat block. That's probably something we should add. Do you know what I mean? Hi, John. How are you? You rock. Thanks for the Monday night lore. You are welcome, John. I'm thinking that maybe we should add some sort of feature that means that if you come in physical contact with the creature, not make an attack, but actually come in contact with the creature, you actually take some cold damage as it absorbs heat into itself from you, which you don't actually have here as a feature of any kind. Plus cold damage. That's just the slashing damage, so that's really not really factoring that in. That's not, and I don't feel like that's necessarily something we need to factor in terms of an ability here. Because if you hit the creature, it won't make any difference. You'd have to punch it or kick it. Touching it, yes. Touch or hit the creature within 5 feet causes damage. So we'll click this on. How much? I only think three points. I'm going to go with a 6-sided dice. I don't want it to be that much. In fact, it could even be lower than that. I think it could be a D4. Let's make it a D4. So 2 points on average would be what we were looking at. Okay. And then the rest of it, nimble, no. Pack, no. Parry, no. Possession, regenerate, no. Stench. We're not stenching ourselves out today. This ad is beginning to annoy me a little bit. Okay, stench, superior invisibility. Can turn invisible as an action or bonus action. No, it's not like that. It's not a pixie. It needs its environment to actually have that work. So, what does it look like if I go scroll up? It actually says it's a challenge rating 4. That's interesting. Challenge rating 4, eh? So, do you know, I get the distinct impression that maybe a Yeti should not be a challenge rating 3 monster. Let's rebuild the monster and see what its ultimate challenge rating winds up coming out as. What do you guys think? People, I want you to let me know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to where is my I'm going to take a break. Where's my break screen? Here's my break screen. And while I'm taking my break, I'm going to ask you a question in the poll. Okay? And for quite obvious reasons, do we rebuild it? Do we rebuild the Yeti stat block? I think we should, frankly. I think that there are some things that need to be done here. I think we, instead of us focusing so much on some of the aspects of this that we've had presented to us, that maybe we actually just make it what it's supposed to be. I don't think the Yeti should be a low-level monster. I actually think maybe it should be a slightly higher monster. Okay, so I'm going to add this poll. Do we rebuild the Yeti stat block? Yes, no, undecided. That is our poll. I am going to take a 5-minute break. I will be back. Vote away, and then we'll get to work. Addicted to halfling flesh. Really? Okay. I think I'm ready to come back in. Let's make sure I've got everything sorted. Okay, so a couple of people have said yes, which is fine. We'll leave that there. And back to my workstation. And transition over. Okay. Where is this? Okay, all right. Now that we've done that, let's continue on our journey, which is a few things to do. I think ultimately what we do is we aim for challenge rating 3, but we do the things we think we need to get it where it needs to be. What it means is that the immunity to cold is going to push the challenge rating up a lot higher as a result of doing this. Okay, so we go to edit. They are the nasty ones. Yes, absolutely. So Yeti remastered. And this is version 1. Challenge rating we're going to leave alone. Chaotic evil, we've listed it as chaotic evil. I don't know that it necessarily has to be chaotic evil. I'm just going to mark it as chaotic neutral. How do people feel about, I mean, it makes it easier for the players to legitimize butchering the thing, which I don't actually have too much of an issue with. But how do people feel about me changing the alignment? Just let me know in the comments section. But I'll leave it for now. Scrolling down here, I want to add in that feature, but first off, let's deal with the things I put on my list. It's armor class. Fendar, I understand where you're coming from, but I'm going to push the armor class up. I'm going to put it up to 13. It is challenge rating 3. Let's make it a 13. I mean, whether it's 12 or it's 13, it doesn't really make any difference, frankly. It should be a challenge rating 3 monster, so 13 makes sense. If we were to have a number that's 1 less or 1 more than that, it really doesn't matter too much. But you let me know if you feel like 12 is fine. I am always like, let's just aim for the numbers that are here, and then what makes the monster is not the numbers, it's what the monster can do. Do you know what I mean? You thought they were neutral, Spirit Wolf? No, they're not actually neutral, frankly. Which, I mean, frankly, I don't think they need to be chaotic evil. I think chaotic neutral is probably fine. Yeah, bump up the fire. Yeah, so let's do that. It's only 1. It's our hit points that are the problem. Our hit points definitely need to go up. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to put down the average hit points at being 101 or 115. That's just not going to happen. But based off our calculation, if we have a constitution where it is, and the number of hit dice that we have, I believe we're looking at 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 6, 9, 12, 16, 19. So 19 from the constitution. It says 18 here. Why am I got an 18? If I made a miscalculation, I have. It is 18. So 18 because we've got 6 of them. That's fine. So we've got 18. We need to push it up a little bit more. And the easiest way is to change the number of hit dice that it has. So if I go 51 minus 18, yeah, that was saying, let's go, that's going to come out at what? God, can I do maths right now? My brain, it's really hot in here. Do I drink more water? No, just wait. So we go 17, 40, 33. So apparently getting 33 hit points from our hit dice. How's that working? It's at 6, 6, and 6. Is that what we're doing here? Or is it 5.5? It might be 5.5, isn't it? Let me think. We've got 6 10s, It's 30. Got 0.5, so that's 0.5. So we're actually adding 5.5 every time we put another hit dice on. So let's add a 7. We'll put 7 here. For those of you who are like, how the hell is he figuring all this out? Look, I'll do my best to explain it as I go, but I also got to figure it out myself. So the top end of our hit points needs to be at least 101. So 70 isn't going to do it. We need to go up another 1. If we go 80, we still don't get there. So 9 hit dice would probably get us into the range that we need to be. So 9 is plus a 10, plus our constitution. Got to take in consideration the added con modifier, don't I? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll try it with 7 and see what the numbers come out as. So 7. 7, where are we? So 7 times 5.5. That's the average on our 10-sided dice. Since we've got 7 hit dice, that's what we're doing the maths on. So that would come out as 35 plus the 0.5s is going to be 3.5. 3.5 comes to a grand total of 38.5, which is not helpful. And then we have our con modifier. Now if we do that 7 times, 7 threes, comes to 21. Is that right? It's going to come out at a grand total of 21 plus 38.5 would be 59. So that would be the average, but with the maxed out number, it's still not going to be high enough, is it? Because that's still only 70 and 21. So we will have to go with 8 hit die, I believe. Do the maths for that. 8 times 5.5 equals 40 plus 4 equals 44. Con modifier, 8 times 3, because there's 8 of them, comes out at 8, 16, 24. And that's probably pushed us into the round where we need to be. So 24 plus 44 equals 68. 68 hit points on average, but that gives us what? 80 plus 24. That's in the range. That falls within the specs we needed. 80 plus 24 is 104. So that's actually probably right. So that's where we need to be. So that's what I'll do. 24. And our average hit points adjusted is 68. Okay. We're going to keep the cold immunity. That will just push up our overall challenge rating. So we're going to ignore the challenge rating until the very end, okay? We're not dealing with that. Ignore the cold immunity until we get to the end. All we're worrying about is building the monster based off a challenge rating 3. That's all we need to concern ourselves with. Now, the attack bonus is a +4, and yet we have a +6. And the calculation for the +6 is based off its proficiency bonus, which is +2, plus its strength, which is +4. So it actually, to adjust that, would just cause untold stress and hassle. So we're going to leave that alone. That means that we have artificially definitely pushed our challenge rating without the immunity up to a challenge rating 4. It's not going to be a challenge rating 3 monster anymore. Okay. Damage output is actually really high. And so what I think we're going to do is we're going to first save this so I don't forget what I'm doing, because that's what will probably happen otherwise. Did we get it? Did it do it? Okay, did we get the languages? Yeti granted. Fine, I don't care too much about that. Dark vision, it's got dark vision, that's right. Skills, stealth and perception, it's fine, we can leave them alone. Movement. Walk, climb. Sure. We don't need to mess with them. And then we'll open this up. Okay. So this is version 2 now. And I've done the armor class. I've done the hit points. The attack bonus we're going to leave alone. Okay. So we're going to say we've done it, but I haven't actually changed it at all. Damage output is probably where I want to actually adjust things now. Now, I was thinking about this, and there is probably an easy way to do this. I'm just trying to figure out the easiest way now. So, if we roll 3 6-sided dice, half of that, the average would be 3.5. So that means if we have 3 of them, that's 9, 10.1. So we drop the 0.1, not 10.5. So we drop the 0.5, we get 10. That's what our average is. So we just need to trim a tiny bit off. It's not a lot to get our damage output to a point where it's reasonable. Because right now, probably the chilling touch is the one that we need to contend with. And the claws, I'm inclined to leave them alone. And let's just leave the claws alone. So let's make the chilling gaze do less damage on average. So if I go 2 6-sided dice, that is going to be 3.5 times 2 is 7 on average. 7 still makes it a grand total of 27. 27, does that sit within our... No, it's still a little high. So we'll drop it off again. We're actually going to make it 1... I think we might make it 1d6. 1d6 is 3. That'll mean it'll sit in that range quite nicely. So actually, what I'm going to do is... And I don't get too upset, people. I'm going to change the damage output. We're going to make it a 1d6. The main point of the chilling gaze in the first place is to paralyze the victim, not to do a shitload of damage. Okay, and you've got multi-attack, so you're supposed to use the gaze every single turn anyway. So we're going to make that there. That means it'll be a 3 on average damage, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. Everything else in terms of 1 minute and so forth, I mean, we'll leave that alone. I think that's all perfectly fine as it is. So I've done the damage output. Okay, let's save that. Let's have a look at what it looks like. And then when it touches a creature, we need something that when you bump into the creature, you wind up losing something. Dress your character sheet for battle with the Dragonlance pre-order pack. Go away. Okay. Let's go to my collection. We'll go down. Yeti. Remastered. Where are you, you little sod? Is it not saved it? Oh, new page. Sorry about that. Oh, by the way, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man is done. If anybody wants my Treasure Hoard Golem, you just need to let me know. Patrons, if you want a copy of it, I'll get it to you. Okay, so let's see. Armor class, I'm happy with. Hit points on average, but that's not the average. I mean, the average is just the average. What's more important is not the average, it's the maximum. So now we're looking more at 104, which is much more within the range that we were looking for in the first place for a challenge rating 3. Next, we've got strength. We're not going to wait. All of the stats, we'll leave them alone. The cold aura, that's exactly what we need to deal with. Now, what would be useful? What creature has a cold aura or some sort of aura that does damage when you touch it? Okay, I think that's what we need to contend with. We're not going to add any kind of damage that the aura does if the creature touches you, because that's already tied into the claws. When the claws contact you, it does slashing damage and it does some cold damage. So I think the aura should do 1d6, because ultimately it comes down to the players. You won't necessarily have control over that if the players don't figure out, okay, I should not smash or hit the creature with my fist, my feet. I'm going to have to use a weapon. Fire elemental. Fender, you're probably right. Let's have a look. But everything else looks pretty good. I'm actually pretty happy. To go back to here, open this up. Version 3. We're going to put in a cold aura. Right here, let's find our fire elemental. Got to know your monsters well. Clearly, Fender knows them better than I do. I'm out of water. Darn it. Hang on. Give me a second. I got to fill up the tank, otherwise I'm in trouble. There we go. Nice. Okay. Thank you. More. All right. I'm ready to go again. Okay. Fire elemental. Fire elemental. Right. Basic rules. So fire form is narrow, that's not it. Water susceptibility, that's not it. Okay, so the fire elemental doesn't really have what I was looking for. What else does? I'm wondering if the black pudding does. Oh my god. I'm so sorry. Black pudding. Oh, I'm such a gassy person. Black pudding. Okay. Black pudding. Now, I wonder if I'm pretty sure there's something that's around touching it. Corrosive form. No. Okay, so okay, so can we just make it nice and simple, Fred? What would be suitable as a monster aura that's cold? Maybe let's just write something up. Okay. Cold aura. Okay. Any creature that touches the Yeti. Must make a, yeah, let's just pull this here. That's actually probably the smartest way. We can just pull the chilling gaze aspect into this. So let's do that now. We can use the mechanics directly from it. I don't know why I didn't even think of doing that. That's foolish. It's so easy. Okay, so okay, if the target, no, it's not the target. If the target must succeed, say throw or take. That's way too much damage, but we're going to trim that down. Cold damage. That's it. That's all we need. So we'll just take this, plonk that in there, paste it. Must succeed on a DC 13 Constitution saving throw, or take. It's not magic, or is it? Everything's magic, isn't it? Or take. No, that's not too much. That's too much. We're going to make it 3, and it's 1 6-sided dice of cold damage. And that is our cold aura. Bold. Do I need to italic it? I guess I do. Okay, any creature, let's read it over and make sure I got it right. Any creature that touches the Yeti must succeed on a DC 13 Constitution saving throw. It's the right DC, or take 3 1d6 cold damage. That's it. Now, it's not if you hit it with a weapon. You don't have to hit it with a weapon, but if you touch it, or you use your fist or your feet, you just have to touch it. That's all we wanted, is just touch. I think that's perfect. You let me know if you think I've got it right. I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure we've actually done it. It's just a matter of saving it, checking it, and probably making sure we figure out what the final challenge rating for the monster should actually be, because we haven't actually done that, have we? So I'm going to put this here. This is that. I want to take away chaotic evil, and I want to put chaotic neutral. I don't think it works that way. I think the monster itself should just, yeah. Let's just go here, save. We'll go back to Yeti Remastered, my home collection, and let's have a look at what we've got. Down, down, down. Next. It's going to get busy in here. All right, so there we go. I don't care about sharing it with the community, baby. It's not going to affect me in the slightest. Okay, so first off, large monstrosity, chaotic neutral, remastered, armor class, hit points. We haven't changed very much of anything, only the things we think that are important. Fear of fire. Keen smell is fine. Snow, camouflage. I'm not going to worry about doing that. Changing anything with that. It's how you adjudicate it, whether you want to do the dice rolling or not. It's up to you. Any creature that touches the Yeti must succeed on a DC 13 Constitution saving throw or take 3 1d6 cold damage. That's fine. We've toned down the chilling gaze so that the claws and the chilling gaze don't do quite as much damage, because it was really pumping it out pretty well before. Okay, and everything else should be fine, the same. So now we need to see what the adjusted challenge rating for this creature is. So let's go to the challenge rating calculator. This is where we were before. We put in most of the details. Hit points are going to be different now. So hit points are now 68 on average. So that's the number we need to put in here. Never put in the maximum on it, okay? Or only the average, okay? Okay. Armor class we've bumped up by 1. So it's not going to be challenge rating 3 anymore, people. How many hit dice are we using? We're not using 8. Are we using 8 now? I think we're using 8. 8 d10. Yeah. We had 6 d10 before, and it's now 8. Oh, before. Oh, I wonder. Oh, then actually the number that I put in there wasn't actually a challenge rating 4. Was it? Because the original monster had 6, not 8. Okay, I made a mistake there. Sorry about that. Okay, so our damage output should have adjusted for our remastered. Our damage output, 2 claws, each do 7 pierce slashing, and the 3, so that's 10 from each claw. 2 claws, that's 20, plus 3 is 23. So our average is 23 in terms of our damage output. Damage per round, 23. We are not including the you touch the creature thing, because there's no reason for them to touch the creature. Okay? Our save DC is the same. Our attack bonus is a little higher. It does have saves. So attack bonus is actually a, what was it? It's a 6. It's quite high, isn't it? 6. It's got saving throws, but that's down to 13. Vulnerabilities, it doesn't actually have a full-blown vulnerability, but it does have that fear of fire thing. It does have an immunity. It doesn't fly. It doesn't deal damage at range. Fly and can deal, no, it's not doing both of those. It got a saving proficiency. I don't believe it does, so it doesn't. So that means, oops, sorry, that's the old one. and we gave it the ambusher because it's probably going to get surprised on somebody with the fact that it gets advantage, not so much on the attack roll, but it will if it succeeds on its stealth check, it's going to get surprised. So I'm going to put that in. And then heated body, it's going to do damage. So I've given it that one as well. Okay. So the challenge rating is still, it sits at a 4. That's it. Okay, that's interesting. So challenge rating 4 rather than challenge rating 3. I'm kind of agree with that, actually. I think we can readjust our challenge rating for our Yeti to a 4 rather than a 3. Okay, let's go back to edit. Our final edit for this thing. Version 5. Challenge rating is in fact now a 4. Based off everything that we've done here. That should still give you the crux of your Yeti that you had before without making too many silly changes to it. And it does the things that the law suggests that it does. And it's interesting. Like, I mean, it means that if you're a monk, do not hit this thing. Do not try to grab the creature. Doing a grapple with a Yeti is a bad idea. It should be obvious. What do people think? Are people reasonably happy with that adjustment to the Yeti? Do they think that we did a decent job? Or do you think that we went too far? I'm kind of curious as to what people think. I'm going to say that one more time, make sure I got it right. This will obviously, the stat block will go up onto Patreon at the end of the week when I get time. Okay. Now I've got less than 20 minutes before I have to go to work. But do we look at the abominable Yeti? Do we look at the more powerful Yeti as well? We may not have time to make adjustments to it, but we can at least look to see if the maths stands out. Reset this. So you're going to reset. It says, are you sure? Yes, I do. I'm sure. Just do it. Okay, reset. It's now 0. Okay. Now, let's have a look at our next thing, which is, we've done that. Let's go into here. Down this way. I just want to check it, make sure I've got all my maths right and it looks all right. I think it does. But we'll have a look at the abominable Yeti as well. Looks good to me. We've added one new feature and we've trimmed down some damage in certain places. And we've made some other adjustments. Okay. Alright. Sweet. So, go here. We create a new monster. And it's the abominable Yeti. Create a copy. Let's have a look. Abominable Yeti, and we'll save that. And we'll see if we have to do anything with this thing. Do I have any space anywhere? Probably not. Let's do this here. I doubt we'd have time to actually do very much with it, even if I wanted to. So copy of abominable. There we go. There it is. And there is our. There it is. So let's put our maths into this. This is the challenge rating calculator on 5e tools. Let's have a look. Challenge rating for this thing is, where is it? Am I lost? It's a 9. Come on, 9. Okay, and then defense, its hit points. Its hit points are what? 137. Okay. 137. And its armor class is 15. Okay, armor class 15. It is a huge creature. So huge, not large. How many hit dice does it have and what are their hit dice? So the 12s, and it's got 11 of these things. So right now it's listing at 30. We want 11. Interesting. Okay, 11. Yeah, I think it might be fine too. I'm going to have a look anyway. Abominable is a 22 for its con, which is quite a bit higher, 22. So our hit points are obviously correct off this calculator. Damage per round. What's the damage output? It's got pretty much all the features that the other one has, but it's got this Yeti thing. So chilling gaze and 2 claw attacks. So that means that each claw does 14 plus 7 is 21. So 21 and 21 and 21. And then we had to add the cold gaze, which does 21 points of damage as well, which comes to 63 points of damage total on average. 63. With the con save, so similar thing. It's got a cold breath, but that's a cone, and it's hitting multiple characters, so I don't think we need to take that into as a factor. All right, so let's put in 63 per round. Round 63. That's the damage output. 1, 2, 3. Yes. Attack bonus for this thing comes out at 11. And its DC is 18. Constitution's 18. Okay. It's 11. It's attack. It's got a con save, and it's 18. Okay, that's fine. Vulnerabilities. I don't think it's got any vulnerabilities. No, we didn't. The fear of fire is not a vulnerability. It has an immunity because it's got that cold one. Immunity. Doesn't fly, do that. Does it have saving throws? I don't remember. Doesn't have saving throws. Okay, and then we go down, and I'm going to click on the same thing as the ambusher, and it doesn't have heated body because we haven't added that to it, but our monster now does. Okay, or cold body in this case. So let's have a look and see what the numbers come out as. Kind of curious now. Everything else it doesn't have. Regenerate, doesn't have regenerate. DC 12. Holy Toledo, is it that far out? No, I haven't even looked at the quick creation chart, but that's suggesting to me that this thing is significantly out in terms of what we're doing here. How have they built this? 11 12s. Effective 274. Okay. Armor class. Average damage. Effective AC. Defensive. Okay, so its defensive is quite high and its offensive is low. And yet it's a challenge rating 9 creature. Can I just say that the Abominable Yeti seems like an extremely big problem. Let's have a look at this thing. Let's have a look at our quick build chart. This is one monster that definitely needs a refix. We're not going to get it done in this stream, but let's have a look and see where the problems lie. Let's have a look at what the Abominable Yeti's got that is not probably been worked out correctly. Based off theirs, 9, it says here on a 9 challenge rating we should have a proficiency bonus of 4. So we've got that. Armor class should be a 16. So the armor class is actually a little bit low. So the armor class is a little bit low. It's only by 1 point, so it doesn't really have much of an effect, if any effect, frankly. So armor class is not the problem, is it? Armor class could go up to 16 for this monster. So what have they done that's messed it up? It's got to be its effective hit points, doesn't it? That's what it's got to be that. So let's have a look. It's effectively its hit points should be 191. Sleep time, no problem, Spirit Wolf. I'll see you later. Thank you. I'm about to disappear myself. I just want to have a look at this now. So 191 to 205 should be the number of hit points. That would be the maximum, not the average. So if we take 12 11s, so 10 11s are 10 11s, or 10 12s. 10 12s 120. And then add another 12, that's 132, plus 66 equals effectively 198. Yep, 132 plus 66 is 198. Does that sit within the 9? It does. So the hit points are fine. Hit points, they're fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So where does it lie? Where's this problem? It's got to be the immunity, which is pushing it up so high, and they haven't factored that in. I think the cold immunity is bumping the that's Fender. I think that's exactly what's going on the calculator, and they haven't factored it in here. And it is a big. I mean, you consider. I mean, if you're in a cold environment, usually the players have got the nonce to say don't use cold damage, but we've seen before how damage immunities have a huge effect on the monster's challenge rating. Now, if that's effectively, okay, so attack bonus. Its attack bonus is 11, and it should be a 7. So that's a huge difference. Attack bonus. Attack bonus is monstrous. Attack bonus is should be a 7, but it's actually 11. It actually should go down because right now it's an 11. Needs to go to a 7, but based off its strength, right, and its proficiency, that's probably what they based it off, which makes sense. So effectively, 7 for strength modifier, and your proficiency, which is 4, comes out at 11. So that makes sense. They did the maths right with that. But they haven't factored that into their challenge rating, because that makes it much easier for the monster to actually hit the target. The more often you can hit the target, the more likely you do your damage. Correct? Okay. So there's a big factor going on there. So that's another thing we need to consider. And then how many hit points does it do per round? Well, that we figured out. It's about 63, and it should be doing 57 to 62. I think actually it's only 1 point up, so damage around is fine. Per round, it's actually, I wouldn't say that it's around, it's fine. It's only 1 point out. It's 1 point out. It's 1 beam counter out. How could you fix it? You could probably drop the chilling gaze damage. Instead of it being 66, you drop it down to 5d6, and you take 3 off the 21, which makes 18. And that would fix the damage output easy peasies. You could do that. Now, its effective saving throw for challenge rating 9. Oh God, here's another problem. It's not just the damage, the damage immunity, people. So saving throw DC should be a 16, and we've got an 18, so it's 2 points higher. So effectively it's pumping. It's much more likely to be effective, this monster. You're more likely to take the damage when you need to make a constitution saving throw. How many times are we likely to do that? Cold breath, definitely more likely to occur, because it's now an 18 and not a 16. Same thing with the chilling gaze. So there's our factor. Like this is, it needs to come down, because it is actually an 18 and it should be more of a 16. Now, I'm not saying that you drop these down and you make them lower. Frankly, if we're aiming for 9, I think we probably should make it a 16 rather than 18. Because, and then of course you put all of its special abilities on top of that, like the damage immunity. That's why the challenge rating, when we calculate it, is crazy high. It's like, it's defensive features put it in the range of being challenge rating 13. Its offensive challenge rating is 11, which comes out as a 12. And yet this creature is listed as a challenge rating 9. I'm going to warn you now, if you're going to use the Abominable Yeti, you probably want to retool it, because this thing, I mean, keep it the way it is, but just make it a challenge rating 12. So you're not putting it in front of players too soon. That would be my suggestion. Otherwise, we remaster it, and it ain't going to happen today. So that's interesting. The Abominable Yeti is a mess. So it really is. I would say this. I haven't seen a monster quite so messed up as this one. It's really terribly constructed. It's not a great job, Wizards of the Coast. Okay. Jeez. How do they come up with these things sometimes? Anyway, I don't know about you. I've had a good time. I feel like we've achieved a lot. And for those of you who were like, okay, you know, how do I build monsters? How do I figure out how to do the maths? I know this is a lot of complicated stuff going on here. Hopefully you were able to keep up. The challenge rating calculator is just part of the issue you need to contend with. The more you do this, the better it gets. And the good thing is, because I do this every single week, we do monster lore, we do cover a monster, we do a bit of tactical stuff on a battle mat, and then we go to the stat block and see, is there something we need to add to it, or is it all right? Do we need to change anything or not? You're going to get plenty of practice every week. Come back, we'll do it again. What's the monster for next week? I still haven't decided. I think it's probably going to wind up being the Hooked Horror or something else. I know a lot of people want me to do the Grick. The problem with doing the Grick is there's very little on the Grick, and it's one of those monsters which I just don't know how to solve the issues to. So don't expect the Grick, even though you've requested it. If somebody has another monster that they have in mind, I will certainly consider it. Patrons, you know it. You always get first pick. Things you suggest on Patreon, I tend to actually listen to. All of the stuff we've been working on today will go to Patreon. Okay. $1 a month, no tears, that sort of thing. Anyway, I am got to go. It's getting hot and warm, and I need to go to work. So thank you to everybody who took part in the live stream today. Thank you to all of my patrons who support me so that I can keep running this program. I really do appreciate it. It makes a big difference. And thank you for taking part on my live stream, for those of you who were able to do so. And watching all the replays of my live streams and my edited videos. I really appreciate the fact that you've tolerated my shorts videos. I have to do them. Thank you for not giving me too much of a hard time about them. I do appreciate that as well. So wherever you are in the world, whether it be the morning, the afternoon, or the night, or the wee early morning, please look after yourself, your family, and your friends. Be nice to your neighbours. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Thank you, Fender.